I ran my family's restaurant for 12 years. Then they gave it to my brother and demoted me to kitchen manager. Hi, I'm Dominic, 33, and I thought I was building a future with my family until they handed my life's work to my brother and expected me to say, thank you. I started working at Papa's Place when I was 16. My parents had just bought the failing Italian joint and basically handed me a hairnet and a mop before I even got my learner's permit. My older brother, Anthony, was off studying real business at a university out of state, so I was the one stuck elbow deep in marinara and broken dreams that IT was supposed to be temporary, help out until things got stable, but temporary turned into 12 years. 12 years of double shifts, of holidays spent unclogging the grease trap instead of unwrapping gifts, of late night walks home smelling like garlic and disappointment. Meanwhile, Anthony would swing by once or twice a year, give everyone a hug, complain that the wine list wasn't elevated, and then disappear back to whatever cushy marketing job he had at the time. I stayed. I ran payroll. I dealt with suppliers, city inspectors, health violations. The time the walk-in fridge died on a July weekend. I redesigned the menu, brought in local ingredients, updated the POS system, trained every busser and dishwasher that came through our doors. When I say I ran the place, I mean it. And what did I get for it? A pat on the back, minimum wage plus family tips, and a promise. Someday, this will all be yours. My dad said it like a mantra. Anthony has his world. You have this. You're the only one who really gets it. And I believed him, right up until the day they called a family meeting on a Monday when we were closed. I thought maybe someone was sick. Nope. They sat me down and told me, with straight faces and coffee in hand, that they were officially signing over the restaurant to Anthony. Because he had a business degree, because succession planning required vision, and because I could just keep running the kitchen, I laughed. I actually laughed. I thought it was a joke. It wasn't. You'll still have a job, Anthony said, trying to sound generous. Kitchen manager, salary, benefits. Benefits. In the restaurant I bled for, that's when I walked out without a word, and that night, alone in my apartment above a laundromat, surrounded by takeout containers and broken trust, I decided I wasn't just going to get even. I was going to win. The next morning, didn't go to Papa's Place. I didn't answer the barrage of calls or the guilt trip texts. My mom even sent a photo of an old family recipe card with the caption, "Remember where you came from?" Yeah, I did. That's exactly why I wasn't coming back. Instead, I sat at my tiny kitchen table with the pot of coffee, my old laptop, and every ounce of professional experience those 12 years had given me. I started a business plan, a real one, not a dream journal, a fully fledged, detailed proposal for a new Italian restaurant, my Italian restaurant, and I knew exactly how to make it work, because I knew everything they never bothered to learn. I knew which produce vendors delivered on time and which ones skimmed on weight. I knew which dish made the highest margin, spoiler, not the lasagna, and which customers tipped like royalty if you just remembered their dog's name. I knew which sauce the health inspector secretly loved and what violation would shut a place down fast. I also knew that Papa's Place was barely limping along. The equipment was aging, the walk-in fridge was still inconsistent, and the grease trap hadn't been professionally cleaned in years. My dad kept saying we'd fix it next quarter. We never did. But I kept it all running, barely, quietly. Now, not my problem. I took out a small business loan. Not much, but enough to get started. I had decent credit. I'd been too broke for years to mess it up. My taxes were laughable, sure, but I brought in letters from suppliers and even had 2 former employees sign on as future hires. I found a spot, a failed brunch place on the edge of town, with great bones and terrible Yelp reviews. Perfect. 10 months later, Nana's Kitchen opened its doors. I named it after my grandmother, the real chef in our family, the one who used to hand roll gnocchi with me every Sunday, the one who always told me I had a gift, the one who never called. Anthony, the smart one. We had a soft opening, just friends, local bloggers, and a few curious neighbors. By the end of that weekend, we were booked out 2 weeks, fresh pasta, handmade sauces, a house cannoli that people legit fought over on Yelp. Meanwhile, Papa's Place. Well, Anthony made his changes. He cut the pasta program, replaced our from-scratch sauces with jars, slashed the menu to optimize throughput. I heard through a former server that he'd started holding staff efficiency meetings, that he got in a shouting match with the sous chef because the guy refused to microwave the tiramisu. Their Google rating dropped a full star in the first 6 weeks, and I hadn't even touched my revenge yet. I wasn't planning on going nuclear. Not at first, honestly. I thought karma would do the work for me. Anthony was drowning in buzzwords and marinara shortcuts. Customers noticed. Staff started quitting. Reviews tanked. The new Yelp photos were tragic gray meatballs, watery Alfredo, and one per soul even posted a picture of a literal roach under their breadbasket. But then I remembered something. The violations. All the health code stuff I'd quietly managed for years. The too warm walk-in, the water-stained ceiling tiles, the dishwasher that barely hit 140 when it needed to hit 160. The mouse problem that my dad always said, just set a trap and don't worry about it. I remembered why I kept all that quiet. Because I thought the place would be mine one day. Because I was protecting something I loved. But now, they gave it away like a party favor, to a man who didn't know the difference between bechamel and Alfredo. So yeah, I made a call. Anonymous. Calm. Detailed. I didn't embellish. I didn't lie. I just reported what I knew. Everything. 3 weeks later, the health inspector paid a surprise visit to Papa's place. And it was glorious. 15 violations. Some of them major. Walk-in fridge temp, 52 degrees. Mouse droppings and dry storage. The grease trap was a legitimate fire hazard. The inspector shut them down on the spot for immediate remediation. How did I find out? A server who used to work under me sent me a picture of the big red closed for violations sign taped to their front door with the caption, "Guess Anthony forgot to circle back on the sanitation KPIs." Their reopening was a disaster. They tried to patch it up, but word had gotten around. Even the local paper ran a short piece on the closure. Customers ghosted. Staff bailed. My parents were furious at me, of course. They knew. They couldn't prove it, but they knew. My dad called from an unknown number. I picked up, curious. "You think this is funny? Destroying your own family's legacy?" "No," I said. "I think it's sad it was ever considered yours." He hung up, and that was the last time we spoke. I was building something better. And Papa's place. It was already halfway into the grave. Papa's place reopened 3 weeks later, technically. But reopened is a generous word for what was really a desperate, limp shuffle toward bankruptcy. They scraped together enough cash to fix the walk-in and sanitize the place. Anthony took out a second mortgage on his house. My parents dipped into their retirement accounts. And still customers didn't come back. Because here's the thing. Once the illusion is broken, it's hard to tape it back together with pre-packaged ravioli and a forced smile. People in our town talk a lot. And once word got out that Papa's place had failed a surprise health inspection and served week-old veal in a warm fridge, that kind of stain doesn't wash out. Meanwhile, Nana's kitchen? We were thriving. The staff was tight. The atmosphere was warm. The food was better than ever. I hired Marco, the most talented sous chef in the city, who'd walked out of Papa's place the moment Anthony asked him to streamline the plating process using squeeze bottles. My vendors loved me because I paid on time and ordered in bulk. My landlord loved me because I'd already renovated the space and boosted traffic on the entire block. The local food critic came by one Friday and left a handwritten note on the bill. "This place feels like a hug from an Italian grandma. Don't change a thing, Anthony." He was hemorrhaging. I found out through mutual contacts that he'd slashed salaries to stay afloat. My mom started working host shifts again. My dad, too proud to admit he'd screwed everything up, would occasionally show up in a stained shirt and shake hands with regulars who no longer existed. And then the worst happened for them. The second inspection. Because here's the thing about trying to slap duct tape on a rotting structure. It doesn't last. They had only fixed the mandatory violations. The rest? Still there. Still festering. The health department shut them down again. This time, it made the regional news. Local Italian restaurant shutters again. After second health code failure, was the headline under an unflattering photo of my brother looking like a deer caught in the walk-in's failing LED lights. And that was the death knell. 6 months later, Papa's place officially filed for bankruptcy. They sold off equipment, leased out the space to a bubble tea shop, and disappeared from the restaurant scene without so much as a goodbye post on Facebook. They didn't even offer the recipes to me. Not that I needed them. I was the recipe. It was a Tuesday when he showed up. I remember because Tuesdays were our slow prep day. We didn't open until 5, so it was just me, 2 line cooks rolling out pasta in the back, and the soft buzz of old Italian records spinning on the speakers. Peaceful, focused. Then the bell above the door chimed. I looked up from the bar where I was reviewing invoices, and there he was. Anthony, my brother, the heir to the throne that no longer existed. He looked like hell. The tailored suits and confident swagger were gone. He wore a wrinkled button-down, a scuffed pair of shoes, and the kind of face that hadn't seen decent sleep in weeks. His eyes scanned the restaurant, probably taking in how full the reservations board was, how clean everything looked, how alive it all felt. He walked up slowly, like a man approaching a confession booth. "Dom," he said, trying to sound casual. "Place looks good." I didn't stand. I didn't smile. I just nodded. "Can I help you?" He shoved his hands in his pockets and looked around again, then finally met my eyes. "I need a job." I actually laughed. It slipped out before I could stop it. Not cruel, just disbelief. "You want to work here?" "I'm serious," he said, a little sharper now. I've got bills. I'm behind on everything. Creditors are calling. The house." He broke off, then reset his jaw. "I just need something. Anything." I let the silence hang for a bit, long enough to make him uncomfortable. Then I stood up slowly and walked around the bar until we were face to face. "You remember that meeting?" I asked. "The one where you told me you were bringing this place to the next level? Where Mom and Dad sat there while you offered me a job like I was some line cook who wandered in off the street?" Anthony winced. "Dom, I made mistakes." "No." I cut him off. "You made choices. You chose ego over experience. Buzzwords over relationships. You took something you didn't understand and drove it straight into the ground." He looked down at his shoes. "I know. That's why I'm here." Took a breath. "You want to work here? Start at the bottom. Dishwasher. No special treatment. No management. You'll clock in, wash plates, and clock out. Minimum wage." His head snapped up. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious. You want to learn this business? You start like I did, elbows deep in suds." He hesitated. I can't live on that," I shrugged. "Then find another job." For a second, I saw something behind his eyes. Pride, shame, maybe both. But then he nodded, stiffly, and walked out without another word. I haven't seen him since. But the next day, a resume came in through our online portal from an A. Romano, applying for a dishwasher position. I didn't call him back, because some lessons aren't taught in kitchens, they're learned in silence. 3 weeks later, I got a letter. An actual letter. Not a text. Not an email. An envelope with my name on it. In my mother's handwriting, loopy, dramatic cursive. I hadn't seen since she used to write birthday cards with "Love you to the moon and back" inside. I stood there in my office staring at it for a long time before I opened it. It wasn't long. Just a single page, written in her favorite purple ink. "Dominic, we made a mistake. We underestimated you. We thought we were doing what was best for the business. I realize now we were just trying to protect what we built, even if it meant losing the person who had actually built it. Your father is too proud to say it, but he knows. I see it in his face every time we pass the old place." "I'm sorry, Mom." That was it. No apology from Dad. No, "We want you back." Just a quiet admission, decades too late. Folded neatly into a white envelope, and I didn't know what to do with it. I sat at my desk for a while just turning it over in my hands. Then I slipped it into the drawer next to the framed photo of my grandmother, Nana, standing in her flour-dusted apron, smiling like the sun. She'd be proud. I knew that. The next day, something even more unexpected happened. My great-aunt Teresa, Nana's sister, walked into the restaurant. She was 91, sharp as ever, and still wore the same floral perfume she'd worn since the 80s. The moment she sat down, she ordered the gnocchi. No menu, no hesitation. I made it myself. She took one bite and closed her eyes. "Your grandmother used to make it exactly like this." I smiled. "She taught me everything. You were the only one who listened, she said, patting my hand. The only one who didn't treat her recipes like a shortcut to money. She used to say that cooking wasn't about impressing people. It was about loving them with food. I didn't trust myself to speak right away. After dinner, she walked back into the kitchen like she owned the place, kissed me on the cheek, and whispered, "Your parents were fools. Anthony was never the one. You were." She became a regular after that, came in every Wednesday with her friends, who argued about whose grandmother made better braciole. They always sat at table 4. I started saving it just for them. For the first time in years, the place felt full, not just busy, full, with laughter, smells, stories, with something real. And I realized something I hadn't before. They didn't just give my dream to someone else, they forced me to build a better one on my own. About 4 months after Papa's place closed, I got a call I didn't expect. Not from my mom, not from Anthony, from Richard, one of our oldest regulars. He used to come into Papa's place twice a week with his wife, Ruth, before she passed. He hadn't stepped foot in there since I left, told me once. It stopped feeling like family food the second you weren't in the kitchen anyway. Richard called asking if he could host his 75th birthday at Nana's kitchen. Private event. 40 guests. He said it had to be here. I want the kind of food that tastes like Sunday in my mother's house, he said. And you're the only one who makes that happen. We closed the place for the night, moved tables, hung string lights over the patio, brought out a live violinist. Marco made the osabuco. I hand-rolled 300 tiny gnocchi myself, just like Nana taught me. The whole evening felt like a warm embrace. Around 9 p.m. after the toast, Richard came up and handed me a small box. Inside was a gold pocket watch. Old, heavy, beautiful. This belonged to my father, he said. He wore it every Sunday to church and every holiday dinner. After Ruth passed, I didn't think I'd ever give it away. But I want you to have it. I blinked. Richard, I can't. You can. And you will. Because this isn't just about food, Dominic. It's about what you built. You took something that was stolen from you and turned it into something honest. That is legacy. I didn't cry in front of him. I waited until after close, when the last guest had left and the kitchen was quiet again. I stood there in the walk-in, watch in one hand, tears in the other. A few days later, I got a text from Anthony. "Can we talk?" I ignored it. Then another. "It's important, please." And then a voicemail. "Dom, look, I don't know what to say. I screwed up. I see that now. I see a lot of things now. You were right. About the restaurant. About everything. I took it because I thought I deserved it. But I didn't. You did. You always did. And I think I wanted to prove I could do something on my own. Instead, I ruined it." He paused. "I'm not asking for a job. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted to tell you that I'm sorry. Really sorry." I saved the voicemail. Haven't replied. Not because I want to punish him. I just honestly don't know what I'd say. What do you say to someone who lit your house on fire, then comes back with a wet match and a shrub? Meanwhile, Nana's kitchen kept growing. We expanded into the space next door, added a pastry station and a private event room. Brought in Francesca, a pastry chef from Naples, who made tiramisu so light it made grown men weep. Started catering weddings. Hired 3 more staff. I began mentoring a young chef named Leo, 18, fresh out of high school, pure fire in his veins. He reminded me of me, hungry, fast, willing to scrub floors and learn sauces. He asked me one night, "So, how'd you start this place?" And for the first time, I told him the full story. The betrayal, the shutdown, the letter, the phone call, the watch. He listened without blinking, then said, "Damn, that's wild. So, your whole family just what? Gave it to the wrong guy and hoped you'd still work for him?" "Pretty much." Leo shook his head. "People are wild, man. But I'm glad they did. Or else there wouldn't be a Nana's, and I wouldn't be here." That landed harder than I expected, because he was right. If they hadn't betrayed me, I never would have left. I would have kept patching leaks and covering for their mistakes, slowly burning out in someone else's kitchen under someone else's name. I would have never known what I was capable of. Sometimes people push you out of a room, thinking they've won, but all they've done is free you to build your own damn house. 3 years after opening Nana's kitchen, I stood in front of a packed house. Friday night. Every table full. Servers weaving between guests like a choreographed ballet. Marco, calling out fire orders. Laughter, wine glasses clinking, the smell of fresh basil and brown butter filling the air. And for once I wasn't in the kitchen, I was by the front door, holding it open for my grandmother's sister, Aunt Teresa, and 5 of her church friends. Table 4's yours, I said, grinning. Already has the braciole waiting. She patted my cheek. You're the only restaurant I put lipstick on for. That's when I saw him, on the sidewalk, hesitating. Anthony. He was thinner now, looked older. No wife, no job, no briefcase or designer watch. Just him, alone. He didn't come in. Just looked through the window, hands in his pockets, watching me smile and shake hands and greet people who actually wanted to be there. I didn't wave. He didn't try to enter. He stood there for maybe 30 seconds, then turned and walked away. And that, right there, was the final moment I needed, not for closure, but for clarity. They'd all made their choices, and now they had to live with them. My parents never showed up, never visited. My mother sent one more letter the Christmas after Papa's place folded. It was long and rambling, full of, "We did what we thought was right," and "Your father just doesn't know how to express things." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. My silence was the reply they deserved. Because here's the truth no one ever told me growing up. Loyalty means nothing when it only flows one way. I spent years earning what should have been mine. And when I asked for recognition, they gave me a job title instead. When I asked for trust, they handed me a mop and told me to support your brother. They didn't just fail to see my value. They refused to see it, but it didn't matter anymore, because every plate of food that left my kitchen now carried something they never managed to create. Respect. Respect for ingredients, for tradition, for the people who show up every day and grind, not for applause, but because they believe in what they're building. The staff here, my team, they don't call me boss. They call me chef, and I wear that title like a crown. Leo's the new rising star. He just developed a seasonal ravioli with wild mushrooms and truffle oil that sold out 2 nights in a row. Francesca's tiramisu was featured in local table magazine. Marco started mentoring the younger cooks just like I did for him. We're not just running a restaurant, we're building a family, a real one, not the kind that hands your life's work to someone else, behind closed doors, the kind that sees you, supports you, and says, "You belong here. You earned this." I keep that old pocket watch in my office. Still ticking. Still gold. A reminder that some things last if you take care of them, and sometimes you don't get to inherit your legacy. You have to build it from scratch, with calloused hands, scarred pride, and a recipe you learned from someone who actually loved you. And that's the best damn dish I've ever made.